Well, it's Wednesday, so it's time for Wednesday Wonderings. And today we're going to look at Matthew 14, 22 to 33. And this is basically, we think of Jesus walking on water and Peter doing it as well. So there's a lot of good stuff in this, and kind of an exciting miracle in a way, because it included Peter in this dramatic way. So let's begin. Verses 22 to 24. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves, because the wind was against it. So he made the disciples get in the boat. I think this is part to disperse the crowd, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he was wanting to go up again on verse 23 to go to pray.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those moments just after, as prior, he was
feeding the
5,000. He wanted to kind of be by himself.
Yeah.
So this was a practice in Jesus' life. And so with all of that going on, and that command is interesting.
Yeah.
He made the disciples.
He made the disciples.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of the people that he had fed would want to hang on, see what else he was going to do.
Oh, yeah.
So by getting the disciples to leave, that helped start the exodus of the group of people there, the thousands of people that were there.
Yeah, it's the proverbial turning the light off. As people are still talking at the end of church, you're kind of like, okay, because that kind of makes people like, oh, yeah, well, you guess we need to go. And that's kind of what he was doing.
And then Jesus sets us an example of going to pray. I almost think if you cannot endure solitude, you probably can't be a Christian. I mean, it's so important to have time alone with the Father in heaven.
Absolutely.
Right, to speak to him. It's what we believe when nobody's watching that is probably what we really truly believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The disciples then in the boat were confronted with a storm.
Mm-hmm.
The word storm is not used, but buffeted by the waves. I don't know, in your version, what is it?
Beaten by the waves.
Beaten by the waves.
So it was, and the wind was against them. So it seems to indicate some just really rough seas or something like that.
And rough seas, I've been to the Sea of Galilee, and rough seas back then would be pretty terrifying, even for these fishermen who knew the water. Sometimes if you know what can happen, it's worse than those who are kind of in blissful ignorance,
Right. Well, and they did this for a living, so when you're looking at later it says they're afraid, it doesn't seem to indicate it's because of the storm as much as what's about to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
They'd also been through this before.
Oh, yeah.
Where Jesus had stilled the waters,
Right.
And, okay, verse 25 through 27. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus came out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." So there's two things that could have made them afraid, First of all, is the fourth watch, that's 3 to 6 a.m.
Right.
Right. So they were probably up because of the waves and things like that. So they were fearful,
making sure everything was good on the boat and all those kind of things.
I like to think, and I'm pretty much sure, that Jesus didn't just do miracles to see what I can do.
Right.
It was always, in a sense, to serve and help people. And so I think he went out on the lake. He probably saw them struggling.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they saw the wind and the waves, and they were beaten by that prior to him entering onto the scene. So
Right.
yeah, surely.
Yeah. Jesus, they were terrified as a ghost.
Right.
How do you deal with fear? You know, I mean, we can ask ourselves, how do we deal with fear? Jesus immediately speaks to them.
Yeah.
Take heart.
It is
It is
I.
I.
I've always wondered, like, who did the disciples think it would be outside of Jesus? Like, you know,
A ghost.
yeah, I mean, but who else would it be other than Christ? You know, now that's easy for us to say.
Yeah, in retrospect.
Because it's 3 to 6 in the morning.
Mm.
They've been beaten. They're probably half asleep. They're exhausted, and now they see this. And you know, I don't know about you, but as I get older, as I drive at night, there's sometimes I think I see things on the road and it's not there.
Right.
You know, well, your eyes could deceive you sometimes. Well, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
But they saw something, you know, and it startled them.
I got a line that I found somewhere. Do not fear while I am so near you. You know, so when we fear, as we're going to see, we need to focus on Jesus,
Right.
focus on our God, that He has us. You know, how do we deal with fears in life? To know that you're a child of God,
Yeah.
and that your whole life He is there, and He knows what's going to happen.
Right.
And
Right.
He's not going to let a little one of His fall and get away from Him, you know.
Right. I mean, the fear in life is never going to go away as human
No.
beings for us.
You know.
And so, you know, we have to know that this is not the last time the disciples are going to experience fear, and to know that Christ is in the midst of them, just as He was
So
right there.
I'll be with you always.
Right.
If He is near, and we know He's near, then we can handle our fears.
Yeah.
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 Okay, verses 28 to 30. Lord, if it is you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. No, I have to say this is a great moment for Peter and a disastrous moment too.
Right.
But did Peter just want to do a trick here? You know, I want to walk on water. You know, I think the words here are pretty important. Peter didn't say, tell me to walk on water. No, he said, tell me to come to you, Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So,
to me, it shows a faith in Jesus, not like, I want to see if I can do it, but
exactly.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's command me to come to you on the water. And so it's knowing that the only way He can do this is through the power of God, or through the power of Jesus. And then Jesus, just one word, come.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And then there's the whole topic of courage.
Right.
Peter seemed to have more courage than others.
Yes.
You know, as I think about people with courage, I think of some people who have what I would call full-heartedness. You know, they do things that others can't do, but they're foolish about it. You know,
Right.
I mean, the courage really has only look at me, look what I can do. You know.
Right.
And then usually it ends disastrously somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And then there's the courage that is exhibited to help someone, you know, to benefit someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different kind of courage,
Yeah.
a courage that at the direction of a higher goal causes them to, you know, a mission.
Mm-hmm.
Or in Peter's case, I think this courage was a little mixture of both,
Yeah.
in a way, you know.
Well, and the rest of other examples in the Bible kind of show that.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yes. But at the same time, it was to go to Jesus, you know. In a way, he was preparing himself to serve the Lord, I think.
I believe we've talked about this before, Pastor Rich, but you've read the John Ortberg book, If You Want to Walk on Water, You Got to Get Out of the Boat. It's in our library here at Grace. And he just does a beautiful job of talking about this story in particular. And, this moment is kind of a stepping out in faith moment. It's not, there's some Peter like, hey, I want to come do it. But, in our lives, there's no guarantee that staying in the boat is any safer than what Peter did. You have a choice in life with things. You can either have faith and step out in faith when God's calling you to do something, because he did command him to do it. Peter could have said, wait, you know what, Jesus, I had second thoughts. I think but he stepped out knowing God had commanded him, or Jesus had commanded him. And, I think in life, sometimes we go, well, what, should I, shouldn't I? But there's no guarantee that staying in the boat is any safer, because there was a storm.
I think courage takes practice.
I mean, it does.
That sounds like an odd thing.
It does.
But it takes practice, because sometimes when you're confronted with a situation and you fail to meet the moment, you might say, you say to yourself, next time it's not going to be this way, and or also you overcome fears by going right at them,
continuing, just stepping out in faith.
I think about my times in Alabama when trying to start this church, and I really feared going door to door, but I couldn't figure anything else out to do.
Yeah.
But once I did it, it got easier, but it still took a push, in a sense, of my own will and prayer, and asking God to go with me. And
right.
I think it was a good thing for me.
Right.
But courage has always been an issue that I've thought about in my life. And I thought about how often I haven't been courageous. And I don't want to be that way. I want to get out of the boat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it is a thing of practice, and I find the more you do it, the more you have the confidence to know Jesus is with me as I step out, as he calls me to step out.
Yes, and Peter actually walked on water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Since that time, I don't know of anybody. I mean, they said Bear Bryant, the football coach, walked on water, but he knew where the stones were. But he actually did it. We don't know how long he did it for, but he was coming to Jesus, and then what does he do? He looks away from Jesus.
Takes his eyes off of Christ.
The object of our faith is Jesus, but when the object of our focus becomes the problems, the doubts, the inabilities, right, then he starts to sink. Yeah. And that's so true in our lives. If we keep our focus on Jesus, we can do incredible things.
Right.
Once we look at the impossibilities of life and all the things that are coming at us, then we're in trouble.
Or if we get arrogant and look at our own belly button and go, hey, I've done it. Then you're going to start sinking.
Right.
It's only focusing on Christ. Yeah.
Focusing on Christ and in a way serving him and serving others who know that keep our eyes on him. He begins to sink, and thankfully he says something that we should all say in moments like that. Lord save me. Yeah. Jesus save me. Help me, Lord, in my time of... And I think this is another maturation for Peter, Here we go again,
It could have been easy for him to start flailing about and go, I've got this, Lord, let me try to just get in myself. And that doesn't seem to be what happened. And
that's a good point. He could have.
It's, how people do. Like, hey, I got this. I can do it. Let me try it. And while he's, floundering. And, then Jesus, it says immediately.
Twice that word is used here.
Right.
Immediately, he gives them a command. Immediately, he saves them.
Right.
So Jesus is definitely in command.
Yes.
I think before we get into the resolution of this, you out there, what is it that causes you to great fear? Is it a worthy goal for you to take on? Maybe it's you fear talking to a neighbor about Christ. Well, think about Jesus Christ. Focus on him and what he would have you do. And you can overcome this fear.
Yeah.
You can find calmness in your soul.
Yeah, I mean, each time you want to grow and you encounter a new challenge, you're going to experience fear. But it's knowing that Christ is with you, going to him saying, Lord, give me the words or give me the courage.
Right.
Like asking him to, on your behalf, to give you what you feel like you don't have because you have it with Christ.
And how does that focus on Christ and the presence of Christ in our life manifest itself? It's through the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, I'm going to send you the Holy Spirit, and he'll remind you of my presence in your life, and he will empower you, so that you can face your fears and overcome them.
I feel like fear and growth kind of go together.
Absolutely.
Like peanut butter and jelly, salt and pepper, they kind of, it just goes together because when you overcome that fear, you go, okay, well, what's the next one? And it is a practice. It is a maturation. And so that's a pretty...
And fear comes into everybody's life. And these are testing times.
Yeah.
And it's when we need to call on the Lord that he will help us. And he will say, save me. Yes.
That's right.
That's
right.
Okay. And then the conclusion of it, verses 31 to 33. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So immediately Jesus reached out. You of little faith, why did you doubt? Is this a rebuke in a way? Or is it, you were doing it? You were doing it. Why did you doubt?
Yeah.
Look what you've done. You came to me. You can move mountains with your prayers if you believe and don't doubt.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, why did you, like kind of degrading him.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's you were there. If you had just kept your eyes on me, you would have walked for however long we would have.
The training wheels had come off, and you were actually doing it. You
were there.
Why did you start looking at the ground? And right. I think this is especially true because they had already had an experience where Jesus calmed the Sea of Galilee.
Right.
Remember what happened. You were doing it, Peter.
Yeah.
Remember all the miracles. I invited you to come to me. I invited you to walk on water. Why did you doubt?
And you were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought with this, it's awesome, I think, how they go, truly you're the Son of God. But I've always wondered, what were the other disciples thinking? They were in the boat. And did any of them go, man, I really regret not just doing the same thing Peter did and just asking Jesus if I could come out too, and was there any kind of, I wish I would have stepped out in faith type thoughts? And we don't know that.
No.
But I think we can regret those times where we let fear overcome us if we don't step out in faith at times. And so we just have to, hey, Jesus, give me another opportunity. And he does,
Peter would become the leader of the disciples, no doubt.
Yeah.
But he would fail again,
Over
back
and
in the
over.
book of Acts, where he cares about what the Judaizers think,
Right.
And so, I would say those disciples in the boat were learning a lesson with Peter, even though they didn't come out and do the same things he did. But when Jesus comes back into the boat, the wind dies down. And here's, I think, the interpretation of that. when Christ comes into our soul, into our hearts, he makes winds and storms to cease. Mm-hmm. He commands peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a tremendous lesson. We want Jesus in our life. You can get away from Jesus and watch turmoil set in, that you can come to him and see what he can do in our lives. He brings peace, hope, joy, all the rest of it.
And when he's with us and he's in our lives, it's even in the midst of storms that we still have peace. We can still find joy even in those times because he's present.
That's right. That's
versus if he's away,
mm-hmm.
we're going to flounder.
Right.
We're going to sink and drown.
Right.
Yeah. That's a beautiful picture of that. That relationship.
So, what does it mean for you to get out of the boat? What areas in your life do you hear Jesus calling you to come to him? Do you hear that? Are you attuned to his word and attuned to what he may want from you? I think you should listen. Listen, go up to your veritable mountain, pray and say, Lord, what would you have me do? How will I come to you? How will I serve you? And expect an answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
And he will help you overcome your fears and guide and direct you to those things he is calling you to do.
Absolutely.
So,
well, another Wednesday Wonderings. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us hear from you, and questions are always accepted. And God bless this Lenten season. And maybe you join us for church tonight at our noon service, which is going to come about pretty soon here.
Yeah, or 6:30.
Or the 6:30 service. Yeah. God bless you.